What's up, guys? It's your boys Wokey, back at it with another Chris Watts video. This one is a little interesting because I was reading through some of the videos that you guys were sending me, and I saw this title, and it goes, "If this is true, the Chris Watts case is about to explode open." I was like, wait a minute. I just wrote that the other day because I thought if there was this burner phone, that it could happen if we were able to get the burner phone or the CCTV footage that showed him using it or bought it or whatever have you. But again, it's only a question. But then I saw this YouTube channel, not saying it's bad that they copied the title. I just want to know what they think, which is Behind the Killer's Smile. We're going to watch it. We're going to react to it. And we're going to put our 2 cents on it as well. But before we go any further, make sure you guys are subscribed to my YouTube channel by hitting that wiper icon down at the bottom right. Hit that bell icon next to it. So when I do post videos like this one, you guys will get that little ring notification that I've posted that video. And then you guys can watch, comment, like, and share. And again, thank you so very much for the love and support. Hopefully one day we will hit that 100K goal. But until that time, we're going to keep on trucking along. If you want to go over to Behind the Criminal's Smile, subscribe, comment, like, and share. I think it's another AI video. And when they say AI, they pretty much take the whole wording. They write this word and the AI talks. So if you guys don't know what that is, that's what it's doing. I'm very interested to see what they think is going to use to explode, which it could explode if that were the case. But we're not going to find out because they won't let us talk to them, or Nicole. They won't let us see the other evidence that they collected. And we're just going to keep watching and reacting and trying to figure out anything, if anything, everything, and if anything. Man, I'm tongue twistering myself. We're going to try to find as much evidence we can. But at this moment, nothing is like new. But who knows? Let's see what this video says. Disclaimer.
June 1st or something. That's when I first met her. Took out my phone, showed her a picture. Like, well, my girl's on the phone. It's like, oh, okay. Like, so, like, yeah, like, yeah. And we just kind of trading the stories back and forth about what we did and everything. And then one day it just kind of went to a different level. And then I never thought it would ever go to that level. And we met up after we got back. And
how did you guys meet up?
At a park in Thornton. Yeah.
Oh, the same park that you went running with Nick Thayer?
Thornton somewhere. And after that, we just kept seeing each other.
What did she know about you? Did she know you were married first?
She did, once I showed her the pictures on the phone. Yeah.
His behaviors?
Like, you know, the home screen picture.
So was your wife in that picture, or was it just your phone?
It was just my girls right there, but my wife was the lock screen.
Oh.
So she knew I was married with my kids.
Okay. Can I ask kind of a tough question?
It has
So what was the picture on the front if it wasn't her anymore on the lock screen?
been 7 years since the name Chris Watts became synonymous with betrayal. The courtroom is empty now. The case file is closed. The man himself sits behind concrete walls, his sentence carved into the law. And yet, this case refuses to fade. It lingers in documentaries, podcasts,
And the number one reason why it doesn't fade is Miss Nichol Kessinger. That's why this case cannot go quiet.
YouTube breakdowns, and late-night conversations. It survives in Shannan's Facebook videos that autoplay on strangers' feeds, in the body cam footage replayed frame by amateur detectives, in the interrogation tapes dissected by millions who feel both horror and fascination. Why this case?
I don't think necessarily I think this is fascinating. I think it's ludicrous because we don't have NK. We've never been able to talk to her. They just told us, the law enforcement were like, oh, she's clear. Don't worry about it. Just get her out of here. Get her out. But she's not involved. Like, that's what they're literally doing.
does it still haunt so deeply long after justice was delivered? The answer lies not in what we know, but in what remains uncertain. Because beneath the headlines and verdicts are fractures, contradictions, and unanswered questions that gnaw at the edges of the story. Shifting confessions, red flags dismissed or ignored, family tensions that reveal scars far deeper than the crime
We
itself.
like our red flags.
Psychological shadows that suggest we may not have seen the full picture at all. And now, 7 years later, whispers have resurfaced. Claims, hints, speculation. If these are true, the Watts case could ignite again, shattering the fragile illusion that this story is over.
I mean, we just need that little tiny bit of evidence that ties her there. It's just a little bit. And if we get that, it would explode. But will we see that? Fingers crossed.
That is the heart of why it will not die. Because the truth we have may not be the whole truth at all. To understand why, we must step back. We must strip away the viral clips and sensational thumbnails.
Okay.
And look at the forces that collided long before August 2018. A family curated for the world's gaze. A marriage frayed by illness, debt, and silence. A man who built 2 lives, one public, one...
You could literally put because of Chris in front of all this, or because of NK in front of each of these sentences, and it pretty much, you know how you say things like at the dinner table and you're like, oh, can you pass me the roll? I need that sausage over there. And then you would add the end in bed, like you would add that funny thing just to make each sentence funny. Instead of being funny, put NK and Chris Watts in front of it, and it makes sense.
one hidden, and a society that consumed it all, turning tragedy into obsession. This case is more than one family's nightmare. Before the Watts case became a global obsession, it was already a performance. Not in the sense of falsity, but in the way modern life is performed every day, curated through screens, polished through filters.
I mean, I get what this person's saying, is that maybe if it wasn't for social media, this wouldn't have happened. You can't blame it on social media because people send letters or Christmas letters and people get, it's a jealousy thing is what I think that they're trying to get at with this. And back in the past, we didn't have computers or phones that you could take a picture and look who I'm with. Look who I'm with. Oh my goodness. Kind of thing. And now they want to blame everything on the social media. It's the people behind the social media. That's the problem.
Broadcast for strangers. Shannan was both actress and director of this family's digital stage. Her Facebook timeline became a running diary of love and resentment.
And people hated her for it because she wanted to post on her Facebook. That's what Facebook is for. Like you're supposed to. Hey, look at my family. Here's my job. Here's my puppy. Here's my car. Like, look, this is me. It's my Facebook. Open and pages of all your stuff about you. I just don't get why they're like, oh, we hate Shannan. Why do you hate Shannan? Because she was a leader? Because she wanted to help people? She loved her kids? She loved her family? Like, because she didn't do things that you didn't agree with, you're glad that she's gone? That's like a Charlie Kirk kind of thing. I'm just gonna say. But why are we justifying death? This is not like some serial killer that murdered 47 people. You can't justify Shannan's death. I'm sorry. There's no way, if ands or buts, you can justify her death. She did not deserve to die. The only thing is that God wanted her home sooner. Is the way that Sandy Roustek kind of looked at it with her faith. Is the Lord in heaven and all that stuff to that extent. But I hate when they go after her and they're like, oh, we're jealous, so we're gonna say all this stupid stuff and we're gonna get like a riot with pitchforks and fire batons And then we're going to go after Shannan because we hated it. Like, what are you doing?
Resilience. Videos captured the girls twirling in princess dresses, birthdays lit with balloons and laughter, and the tender moments of a mother determined to celebrate life despite illness and hardship. There were product pitches, yes. Her business relied on visibility, but also moments of raw intimacy. The posts painted a portrait of a family thriving, a marriage steady, a life blessed with children and stability. At the center of this curated world was Shannan herself.
And for those Shannan haters, don't be sitting there thinking that you're all so holier than thou, this perfect person. I'm not perfect. But people want to sit there and the Wookiee thinks he's perfect. I never said that. I have a mole right here. That's not perfect. Perfect would be perfection. Is it this side or this side? I can't tell because my screen keeps changing. But I have a mole, okay? And I also have emotions. I get too emotional. That's not perfect. But you will go and attack a woman that is deceased because this man wanted his poutang glazed. Yeah, that's gross. But he wanted the cake and to have Shannan, but then when somebody gave them an ultimatum and said, you better fix this or take her, whatever, you can't have this cake anymore. And Chris Watts did it. And then they're like, oh yeah, we see why you killed her, Chris. She was unbearable. What? No.
Right, animated, expressive. And at the edges, always, was Chris. He stood quiet in the background of videos, smiling when prompted, his voice muted, his presence often passive.
Some people don't like the camera. That's okay.
To many viewers, he appeared shy, unassuming, a supportive husband content to let his wife take the spotlight. But hindsight turns those videos into something else entirely. Where once people saw bashfulness, they now see detachment. Where once Chris looked like the steady anchor, he now looks like a man already gone. His body language reads stiff, his smile strained. The lens that once reflected joy now reveals unease. This is the paradox of social media. It captures truth, but never all of it. It shows what is chosen to be shown, leaving the shadows off screen. For Shannan, those videos were more than documentation, they were protection. By broadcasting a happy marriage, she was also telling herself the story she wanted to believe, even as cracks widened beneath the surface. When tragedy struck, those same videos.
And some people will spread lies and rumors, and then that person that spread those lies actually believes their lies and their rumors. And then when they actually take a test, they can actually not fake the test, but they can actually not cheat the test, but break the test because they actually believe their lies. I read about it somewhere yesterday, and it was a good article. Oh, I wish I would have kept it. Yeah, I wish I would have kept it.
Became evidence. Strangers dissected them frame by
It reminded me of this.
frame, arguing over tone, posture, glances. Was Shannan too controlling? Was Chris distant? Did the signs of betrayal hide in plain sight? In the aftermath, the curated joy turned into a crime scene of perception.
At a guy's perspective, Chris is an idiot. And I've asked all my other buddies and so forth, who would you have? Shannan with 2 kids or Nichol with daddy issues? They would have went with Shannan. And they're around my age, not these 20-year-olds that just want to go college. You know what they do in college. But guys would have killed to have what Chris had with Shannan. A house, double income. Yeah, finances were not always on par. What family doesn't? We're all in predicaments. And then they're like, oh, Shannan spent too much money. I'm like, well, Chris was doing it too. Like, don't be. They keep pointing the fingers pointed towards Chris and Nichol, and they just want to keep splitting the arrow and pointing it over at Shannan too. Don't.
And so, what was once an ordinary family scrapbook became something far more haunting. a gallery of ghosts, replayed endlessly by millions who felt both intimacy and distance. For the public, the Watts family wasn't just a family anymore. They were a story. They were content. The smiling photographs, the cheerful videos, the carefully curated image of a thriving family. None of it showed the quiet fractures spreading beneath the surface. Cracks that began as stress points, small and seemingly manageable, but grew until they formed fault lines no one could ignore. Money was the first fault line. The house in Frederick, Colorado.
But that's why you say in your vows through richer or for poor. So through thick and thin, the good and the bad. You see, Chris? I don't think he was paying attention during his vows. He's like, okay, we're married? Yay. Okay. That's literally probably what he's like.
With its manicured lawns and picture-perfect rooms, was not a symbol of stability, but of pressure. The Watts family was drowning in debt. Mortgage payments slipped. Credit card bills mounted. Bankruptcy loomed like a shadow just outside their door. Yet online, none of this could be seen. There, Shannan projected success, resilience, optimism. The gap between the digital image and financial reality widened until it became a canyon. Then came health. Shannan was living with lupus, a chronic illness that exhausted her body and drained her spirit.
There's a comment in this down here. Where is it? And I'm going to show it because why not? Because people put their name in here. Where is it? Or I'm no fan of Shannan at all. What? Shannan didn't have lupus. She's the picture of glowing health. I've nursed the sufferers. They can't tolerate sunlight, have skin rashes, and affect lungs and kidney. No evidence in autopsy. They weren't looking for it, Nimrod. Like, what are you doing? Chris Watts was telling his parents Shannan had bipolar. So was NK. If things weren't unraveling, why would anyone decide to get pregnant? Shannan was no. What? Wow. Yeah. Let's continue. Why don't we?
Every day was a battle against fatigue, joint pain, and the unpredictable flare-ups that made even simple tasks difficult. Yet, she powered through with determination, running her business, raising her daughters, keeping up appearances. Each smile captured on video was not just joy, but defiance, a refusal to let illness define her. But that strength, unacknowledged by those closest to her, became another hidden burden. The deepest crack, though, lay between Shannan and Chris's family, particularly his mother, Cindy Watts. Their relationship was fraught, marked by tension, disapproval, and unspoken hostilities that sometimes erupted into open conflict.
I'm not
Arguments
saying nothing.
over how the children were raised, over respect, over boundaries, festered. Shannan felt unsupported, attacked, dismissed. Cindy felt judged, excluded, misunderstood. Between them stood Chris, silent, passive, unwilling, or unable to bridge the divide. It was a silence that defined him. While Shannan fought, spoke, pleaded, and tried to fix what was breaking, Chris retreated further inward. His avoidance became its own cruelty, leaving Shannan isolated in her struggle. Her texts to friends revealed the cracks, messages filled with fear that her marriage was collapsing, with sorrow that Chris seemed absent, with despair that she no longer recognized the man she had married. To outsiders, none of this was visible. The smiles held. The posts continued. The family appeared whole. But those who looked closer, those who read her words and listened to her private admissions, saw a woman fighting desperately against an unraveling she could not stop. Cracks beneath a smile are the most dangerous kind, because they make us believe everything is fine until collapse is sudden, devastating.
But why does that matter? Like, I think they're trying to justify the murder still.
And absolute. In the Watts family, those cracks were already deepening long before tragedy struck. And once revealed, they forced us to confront a haunting truth. Sometimes the happiest images hide the darkest fractures. Every betrayal begins in silence. For Chris Watts, that silence became the hiding place of a second life. A life so carefully concealed that even those closest to him could not see it forming. It began with small changes. Chris shed pounds, sculpting his body into leaner muscle. He traded baggy work shirts for fitted clothes, new shoes, a sharper look. He said little about it, framing it as self-care, but it was more than that. It was transformation. He was not remaking himself for Shannan, or even for his daughters. He was building a new identity, one that belonged to someone else, in a different story, far away from the family he already had. There were late-night searches on his phone, hidden apps, deleted histories, text messages that slipped away as soon as they were sent. His new wardrobe, his gym sessions, his grooming, all were part of this secret reinvention. To Shannan, already exhausted from illness, pregnancy, and the daily grind of raising 2 children, the changes felt like a void forming in the center of her marriage. He was there physically, but emotionally, he had vanished.
Gone.
This is where criminal psychology offers a chilling insight. The phenomenon of the double life is well documented. Men who outwardly present themselves as ordinary, steady, reliable, but who live in secrecy, indulging desires or ambitions incompatible with the image they show the world. It is not always born of violence. Chris's double life was not filled with chaos or outward signs of rebellion. It was
Nope.
quiet, methodical, almost invisible. He smiled in Shannan's Facebook videos, stood in photographs with his children, attended family gatherings. At the same time, he was nurturing a version of himself that imagined freedom from responsibility, from debt, from the pressure of expectation. A life without Shannan. A life without Bella and Celeste. A life without the weight of fatherhood. What makes this so devastating is not just the secrecy itself, but the cold calculation behind it. To live a double life is to rehearse betrayal daily. Each message sent in secret.
It sounds exhausting. Like, why would you want to do 2 lives when the first one's exhausting?
Each lie told casually. Each moment of detachment was practice for the unthinkable. By the time August 2018 arrived, the second life had grown stronger than the first. And that is why this case still unsettles us. Because Chris Watts was not the archetypal criminal, not the violent stranger hiding in the dark. He was the man next door, the quiet coworker, the father pushing his children on the swing. His double life reveals the most terrifying truth, that evil can hide not in monsters, but in the ordinary. That a man can live 2 lives until one consumes the other, and no one sees it coming until it is far too late. Some battles leave scars on the body. Others remain invisible, fought in silence, hidden behind forced smiles, carried alone until they crush the soul. Shanannwatts lived inside a war that few could see, a war that defined her final months. Her body was weary. Lupus drained her daily, stripping her energy, attacking her joints, forcing
People are like, she didn't have lupus. Like, are you a doctor?
her to live in cycles of pain. Pregnancy brought joy but also fear, another layer of fragility, another weight she bore with determination. Yet she refused to show weakness. In every video, she smiled through fatigue. In every post, she projected strength. To the outside world, she seemed unstoppable. To those who loved her most, she confided the truth. She was tired, afraid, and fighting to hold her family together with what little strength she had left. Her texts to friends reveal the quiet heartbreak of a woman watching her marriage slip away. She pleaded for honesty, begged Chris to tell her what was wrong.
I've seen people use this picture saying, oh, she was cheating on Chris. Like, shut up.
Poured her fears into words he often answered with silence. Her questions went unanswered. Her greatest fear was abandonment. She confessed to friends that she felt unloved, that Chris had grown distant, that she no longer recognized the man she married. And yet, she fought for him, believing that love, persistence, and sheer will could keep her family intact. Meanwhile, Chris fought his own unspoken battle, one of apathy. His retreat was deliberate, a slow suffocation of intimacy. He gave less, spoke less, withdrew more, leaving Shannan to wonder if she was
Sounds
the
like
only
his
one
problem.
still fighting. For her, every unanswered question was a wound. For him, every plea was another reminder of a life he no longer wanted. This was the cruelest tragedy. Shannan battled illness, exhaustion, fear, and emotional abandonment all at once. She was not only carrying a new child, she was carrying the weight of an unraveling marriage, a fractured family, and the silence of a husband already gone. The unspoken battles are often the most devastating. Shannan's strength was her refusal to stop fighting. Her tragedy was that she fought alone. The crime scene in Frederick, Colorado, has been dissected 1,000 times. Every door handle, every carpet, every shadow captured on body cam footage has been studied by strangers searching for answers. But the true story of the Watts case is not confined to physical evidence. It lives in the footage, the interrogations, and the moments where words collided with silence.
And the words that Nichol Kessinger should speak.
The police body cam recordings are chilling not because of what they show, but because of what they don't. Shannan is missing. Her daughters are gone. And yet Chris Watts stands there, calm, measured, strangely detached. He gestures toward the house.
Nothing more to enjoy than sleeping with your kids and cuddling up with them and just know everything's going to be good. What a feeling that is.
Repeats explanations, answers with a steady voice that unsettles rather than reassures. Neighbors notice. Detectives notice. And so do we, years later, when we replay the footage. His calmness is not composure. It is absence. Inside the interrogation room, that absence became a performance. Detectives leaned in, patient and relentless, circling him with questions. Chris folded his arms, lowered his eyes, dodged. He deflected, created possibilities, wove theories that carried no urgency. It was a psychological dance, investigators pressing, Chris slipping, until the fabric of his story frayed. And then came the moment that shattered everything, when his father, Ronnie Watts, entered the room. The footage shows a man leaning into his parents' presence, speaking fragments of truth, but still protecting himself with lies. He admitted enough to crack the dam, but not enough to reveal the full flood. His voice is halting, his words clipped, as though even in confession he cannot let go of control. To watch it is to witness the unthinkable, a son exposing the darkness within himself to the father who raised him. Ronnie's silence, his helpless gaze, is one of the most haunting images of the case. Even after that, Chris's confession was not whole. He shaped it to cast Shannan as the one who harmed the children, shifting blame onto the very woman he had already taken. This cruelty, this attempt to rewrite her memory in order to shield himself, was perhaps his deepest betrayal. Detectives recognize the tactic. It is not uncommon for perpetrators to distort truth to salvage fragments of image. But it revealed something darker, that even when stripped of freedom, Chris clung to the performance of innocence. Beyond the crime scene lies the real horror of this case. It is not only in the bodies discovered or the timeline reconstructed. It is in the lies told with a steady voice, in the silence of a father hearing the unthinkable, in the manipulation of a narrative that could never be undone. The Watts case is not just about what was done. It is about how truth itself was twisted. And that is why, years later, every word, every glance, every pause in those recordings still feels like a wound that will not heal. The courtroom is supposed to be a place of justice. But
again, I don't know why they look at the past of hers. Like, why does that matter? She loved public speaking. She loved going live and selling her product. They're like, oh, she was on Facebook selling stuff. It's her job. When you go to the store, do you say, I don't want you to sell me anything? You go to a store to buy something. They're trying to sell you something. Hello.
the Watts case, it was also a place of fracture. Because when the truth came out, it did not just destroy one family. It split two apart forever. On one side sat the Rizuseks, Shannan's parents, Frank and Sandra. They carried their grief into every hearing, every proceeding.
And yet all the lies and rumors that they spread about these two is ridiculous.
Their faces etched with the unbearable weight of loss. Their daughter was gone. Their granddaughters, Bella and Celeste, were gone. Even baby Nico, who never drew his first breath, was gone. The courtroom forced them to relive that loss in excruciating detail, through reports, confessions, photographs that no parent or grandparent should ever be forced to see. For them, there could be no closure. Justice was not enough. No sentence could restore what had been taken. What they sought was not merely accountability. It was the preservation of Shannan's memory, the defense of her name against the lies Chris had told, even in his so-called confession. On the other side sat the Watts family, carrying a different torment. Ronnie and Cindy lost their grandchildren too, not to death, but to the revelation of who he truly was. They sat in silence, condemned by association, judged not for their actions, but for their bloodline. Some still defended him, others sought to make sense of the unimaginable. Their struggle was not just grief. It was shame, guilt, and the impossible task of reconciling love for a child with the horror of his actions. The tension between the families was palpable. Shannan's parents demanded that their daughter's story not be rewritten by Chris's manipulations. Cindy's attempts to speak of her son,
which we watched in the past couple days from that live between Mommy Rambling and Frank Senior, like the lies that either YouTube channels or Chris was stating, there's a lot of them that I've never even heard of.
as she had known him, a quiet boy, a good man gone astray, were seen by many as excuses, as deflections. Every word, every glare, every silence across the aisle carried unspoken fury. It was not just a trial of a man. It was a trial of memory. Who was Shannan? Who was Chris?
Well, it didn't go to trial. It should have went to trial.
Which story would survive? The Rizuseks sought to enshrine Shannan's legacy of love and resilience. The Watts family struggled with the unbearable knowledge that their son would forever be remembered as a murderer, his name etched in infamy. In the courtroom, justice was delivered. But in the hearts of those who sat on either side, there was no justice. Only grief. Only silence. Only the knowledge that one man's choices destroyed not just his family, but two families, leaving them.
All Chris was thinking about was himself and Nichol. He didn't care about what was going to happen to his family or the Ruseks or the people that had to retrieve the bodies. Like, it bothered everybody, a lot of people.
Broken in ways that no verdict could repair. When the Watts case broke, it didn't remain in Colorado. It spilled outward like wildfire, consuming headlines, dominating television, and saturating the digital world. In a matter of days, Shannan, Bella, Celeste, and baby Nico were no longer just names in a tragedy. They were faces known to millions, their lives dissected by strangers who felt entitled to their story. The release of police body cam footage and interrogation tapes turned the public into participants. Viewers became detectives, studying every frame, analyzing Chris's posture, slowing down his words, searching for cracks in his calm exterior. This time by people who judged her with cold detachment. Some praised her as a devoted mother, a woman who gave everything to her children. Others twisted her memory, echoing Cindy Watts's criticisms, labeling her controlling, demanding, even blaming her for her own death. It was victim blaming dressed up as analysis, and it added a cruel second trial, this time in the court of public opinion. The obsession revealed something unsettling about us all. The Watts case was not just consumed, it was devoured. Documentaries multiplied. Podcasts retold the story from every angle. YouTube creators produced reaction videos speculating on Shannan's tone or Chris's body language. What began as a search for justice
That's
turned
Shannan,
into entertainment.
Chris.
The family's pain became content. Their grief became monetized clicks. And with the retellings came conspiracies. Some insisted Chris hadn't acted alone. Others suggested Shannan bore responsibility. A
Now,
few spun elaborate theories about cover-ups, secret accomplices, or alternate timelines. None of
apparently there's 12 people there.
it was supported by evidence, but it didn't matter. The world's obsession became its own reflection of horror. We looked at the Watts family and saw what we wanted to see: a warning, a mystery, a puzzle to solve. But in that process, Shannan, Bella, Celeste, and Nico became symbols rather than people, trapped forever in a cycle of scrutiny, judgment, and voyeurism. The Watts case was never just a crime. It was a spectacle, and the world is still watching. Not because we seek justice, but because we cannot look away from the haunting reminder that the most ordinary smiles can conceal the darkest truths. And for Shannan,
Ooh.
Bella, Celeste, and unborn baby Nico, this immortality is both a gift and a curse. Shannan's Facebook page remains frozen in time, a digital monument to her life. Scroll through her feed, and she is still there, smiling in front of her home.
I've watched a lot of her lives, and she definitely speaks to you. With her being gone, she still speaks to you and encourages you to be a better person through her social media presence. And I definitely value what she's had to say.
Announcing her pregnancy with joy, holding her daughters close. Each post radiates optimism, determination, love. But now those same posts carry an unbearable weight. What was once ordinary has become spectral. Every caption reads like foreshadowing. Every smile feels like a haunting. Bella's soft voice echoes through videos, declaring love for her mother in words that now pierce like knives. Celeste's laughter, wild and unrestrained, rings out as though the walls of the home still remember. And Shannan's glowing announcement of baby Nico, full of anticipation for the life she believed was ahead, plays over and over, replayed by strangers across the world who cannot let go. Algorithms ensure their presence never fades. Videos resurface in feeds without warning, pushing the Watts family back into the lives of people who never even knew them. For true crime
I don't know them.
followers, these fragments become clues to dissect. For Shannan's parents, they are wounds that reopen each time her image flashes across a screen. Their daughter's memory, their grandchildren's voices, are preserved forever, but never allowed to rest. Even Chris cannot escape the ghosts.
They are at rest. Our videos are not going to bother them where they are. They are with our Lord. And for people to sit there and say that people's videos affects how they rest, no. They are at peace. I just think it's funny that people say that. Your videos are going to bother the dead. No, they're not. No, they're not.
Inside his prison cell, he has surrounded himself with photographs of the very family he destroyed. Their faces stare down at him every day, silent witnesses to his betrayal. Some see this as torment, a punishment that forces him to live with the memory of what he did. Others see it as grotesque, an undeserved privilege for a man who forfeited the right to hold onto their love. This is the cruel paradox of memory in the digital age. Death no longer closes the book. It replays it endlessly. Shannan and her daughters are eternal now, but not free. They exist in a liminal space between remembrance and exploitation, icons of a tragedy that continues to be consumed, dissected, and circulated. The Watts family lives on not only in the grief of those who love them, but in the obsession of strangers who never knew them. They are living ghosts, haunting not through whispers in the dark, but through the glow of screens that refuse to let them go. And that is perhaps the most heartbreaking legacy of all. They cannot rest, because we will not stop watching. Chriswatts lives now inside a cage of concrete and silence. Dodge Correctional Institution in Wisconsin is where his days blur into sameness, his hours
Good.
measured by the hum of fluorescent lights and the clanging of steel doors. To the
Good.
outside world, he is a name steeped in infamy. Inside, he is just another inmate, but one marked forever as untouchable, even among criminals. Prison is not the violent chaos of films. For Chris, it is monotony, isolation, a slow suffocation of time. He remains in protective custody, cut off from other inmates who despise men who harm
He's
children.
in medium
It is a
security.
half-life, a life stripped of color, where every day is a mirror of the one before. But behind those walls, he has not disappeared. Phone calls leak into the world beyond, recorded conversations with his family revealing a man whose voice is eerily flat, detached, rehearsed. He mirrors back their words, avoids detail.
Chris Watts wants to forget this moment in time. He wants to make it seem like he never had the first family. There's instances of him saying, "Oh, I'm still a dad," or "I'm still like," no, you're not. He keeps like flip-flopping. First he'll be like, "Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm forgetting about this case. I don't remember. What are you talking about?" But then later on he's like, "I'm a dad. I loved her. And my Jezebel laid me afar." Like, shut up.
Sidesteps truth. The same
I'm a
emptiness
new
that once
creature.
haunted Shannan is present still, an absence of emotion where remorse should be. Even in captivity, Chris continues to perform, shaping versions of himself for whoever is listening. Letters arrive from women outside, some fascinated, some obsessed, convinced he is misunderstood. Chris answers some with
And they say that I'm obsessed.
scripture, others with talk of redemption, as if quoting verses could erase the horror of his choices. He speaks of forgiveness, of God's mercy, yet never truly explains why. The most important truth, the motive behind the destruction of his family, remains elusive, sealed behind his guarded words. And on the walls of his cell, photographs of Shannan and the girls stare back at him. The very lives he extinguished now surround him every day, haunting him with silence. Some see it as poetic justice, an eternal reminder of what he destroyed. Others see it as grotesque, a possession he no longer deserves. Either way, he cannot escape them.
He
His
doesn't have that
punishment
title
is
anymore.
not only the bars, it is the ghosts that
He's not a boyfriend, or he's not a husband. He's not a father. He ain't going to get that back. Thank the Lord.
inhabit them. The prison walls do not bring clarity. They do not force confession. They contain, they echo, they preserve the contradictions of a man who lived 2 lives and still refuses to reconcile them. Chriswatts remains alive, but lifeless, punished, but still performing, haunted, but never honest. Justice confined him, but justice cannot extract the truth he refuses to give. And so, the prison walls stand as both punishment and metaphor, a reminder that some men can be trapped, but never truly understood. 7 years later, the Watts case.
The way we understand Chris is he was a whiny little bitty baby. He wanted to have his fun. You decide to be a father. Your fun gets to be put on hold. Or you get to incorporate your fun with your kids. Like he's like, I want to go on trips and I want to have booty when I want it. And I don't want to be yelled at. It's like, dude, you had a family. You knew this was coming. Like you decided this. You went after Nichol or Shannan. And then he's like, oh, I don't want this. Push it away. Like, that's not how it works, Chris.
Case is closed on paper, but in the minds of millions, it remains unfinished. The courts gave us the facts. The timeline is set. The sentence is life without parole. Yet the question that gnaws at us still is the one that has no clear answer. Why? Chriswatts has offered versions of the truth, but none of them fit. In his first confession, he claimed Shannan harmed the children, twisting her memory to shield himself. Later, in prison interviews, he admitted planning it, yet softened the edges with vague phrases, as though confession could be reshaped into something less monstrous. In letters and calls, he leans on religion, speaking of forgiveness, quoting scripture, presenting himself as redeemed. But behind every word lies a void. The more he explains, the less we believe. So what drove him? Was it the crushing weight of debt, a failing marriage, and the lure of another life? Or was it something dark?
It was literally lust. Lust, sex, and lies. Those 3 things is what Chris wanted out of Nichol.
Darker, something woven into his nature long before August 2018. If stress broke him, then the horror is almost unbearable, that any ordinary man could collapse in the same way. But if he was always this hollow, then the terror is in how well he hid it, how ordinary he appeared while carrying such emptiness inside. Psychologists debate whether evil is born or made. The Watts case offers no clarity. What we see instead is contradiction. A man who played the role of father and husband in public, while rehearsing their absence in private. A man who smiled for the camera even as he built another life in shadows. A man who killed not out of passion, but out of detachment, a desire for freedom from the very lives he once vowed to protect. For Shannan's parents, unanswered questions are unbearable. They read her final texts, listen to her last voice notes, and wonder if she sensed the danger growing around her. For Chris's parents, the torment is different. How do you reconcile the boy you raised with the man the world now knows? And for the rest of us, the mystery is why we still cannot let go. Why this case, above so many others, refuses to fade from our collective conscience. Perhaps the truth is that there is no answer that satisfies, no motive that makes sense.
If we were actually given not fake interviews, I don't think those interviews were legit. I think they were faked. Or not faked, but like acted. Like over accentuate on things. Why? Like cry. Oh, okay, now I'm better. Like those were completely an act. We just want her interrogated by an officer or a detective that will do it and not give her a deal under the table. Oh, we'll protect you. Witness protection? No, protected witness. I want to give you some information, but I want to be taken care of. I want to be saved. I don't want this to come and bite me in the butt. I got some bombshell evidence, and I'm going to tell you it, but you better give me like a jail or get out of free jail card. Oh, what you told us was not actually bombshell? we're going to take that. Nope. This is a jail-free card. It's pretty much what she played.
No explanation that can soften the reality of a father turning against his children, a husband destroying his wife. The void itself is the answer, the absence of meaning, the black hole of motive. And that void is what haunts us most. Because if Chris Watts cannot explain himself, then the terror is not only in what he did. It is in what he reveals, that sometimes evil does not announce itself. Sometimes it smiles, blends in, waits quietly in the house next door. And that is why we still ask, after all this time, what do we truly know? The Chris Watts case is not just the story of one man's betrayal. It is the story of how fragile the bonds of family can
They closed the book before we could finish the book.
be, how carefully constructed lives can collapse in silence, and how appearances can blind us to the darkness hidden beneath. We look at Shannan's videos, the bright smiles of Bella and Celeste, the hopeful announcement of baby Nico, and we see a family that should have been safe. We see a
Yes.
dream that seemed intact. But behind those images were struggles no one wanted to admit, silences that grew too loud, cracks that widened until there was no repair. This case endures because it unsettles something within us. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that even the people closest to us can be strangers in disguise. That danger does not always come from the outside world, but can
Inside your
emerge
family.
quietly within the home. The Watts tragedy is also a mirror of our time. It reveals how social media captures the best of us while hiding the worst, how public life becomes performance, and how private despair festers behind curated perfection. It is a cautionary tale, not only about the man who committed the crime, but about the world that consumed it, replayed it, and turned grief into spectacle. 7 years later, the case refuses to die because it carries within it all of our fears, of betrayal, of loss, of not truly knowing the ones we love. And in the silence of those prison walls, and in the endless replay of Shannan,
But it hopefully also will save somebody in the future to say, hey, these are the signs from your guy or your girl, vice versa. Men cheat, women cheat, unfortunately. But watch these clues to see, hey, is my husband doing this? Is my wife doing this? Or the signs of a silent killer that possibly you're scared that he just said this same thing that Chris Watts said, or she said it, and now you're like wondering if your life is in jeopardy. Hopefully this will save people, families, couples in the future. With everything, I don't think it was, if this is true, the Chris Watts case is about to explode, but it's definitely interesting stuff to think about. Some stuff we already know. A lot of it we knew. But some of it you're kind of like, that makes sense kind of thing. Let me know your thoughts of what made sense to you. What was kind of like, that's a little bit out of the ballpark. But yeah, I definitely feel that Miss Nichol Kessinger used her jail or get out of jail free card that she wanted when she first got there. I'm not going to talk to you guys unless I get a deal. Okay, here's your deal. And then she's like, I'm playing the jail free card. And they're like, crap, we can't do anything with her now. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts, opinions. I thank you guys for being here. Please take care. Be safe. Again, go over to this channel if you want. Link is in the description below. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Please take care. Be safe. As always, keep nerding on. We will see you guys in the next video.